Hey man, how do you like this? Don't touch that.
And I get them
The way we're going to do this is, if you have a question for these guys, I think we're going to start with questions. Come up to the microphones or line up, and when you've had your questions, go back to your seat, nice and peacefully, quietly. All be okay.
We'll get times together. Nobody runs, nobody gets hurt.
All right, so I guess we'll start.
Come on, you know.
Well, if there's no questions, thanks a lot for coming, you guys. This has been great. We really appreciate it.
All right, fine. Be that way.
Shall we introduce ourselves?
Let's do that first.
Yeah, like you do.
My name is Trax, and I'm a botaholic.
Hello, Trax.
Hi, Trax.
Dan Gilvezan, as you may or may not know, and I performed the role of Bumblebee.
Hi, I'm Scott McNeil. In Transformer World, I was Dinobot, Rattrap, Waspinator, Silverbolt, Jetfire, and Strongarm. Thank you.
Hey, you know, someday this kid's going to get a foothold in Transformer world.
I want to try. I'll do my best, sir. I really want to know what this button does.
Don't do that. If you press that button, my rectum falls out. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to hear about it either.
Camera's ready.
All right. Let's have our first question.
All right, this is for all of you. As actors, after the initial elation of getting a part, what is the process you go through to develop that character? I know
Once we sober up again?
Yeah, once you seem like the initial sketch of the character or whatever materials you're given.
Scott, would you like to begin?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. What? What is the process? I mean, the process kind of starts at the audition, and in my world anyway. We go in, and there really is that moment of elation because I can't speak verbal, but I'm a total worko. I love getting that call, going, hey, guess what? You booked so and so. Yay! Coming up with the voices, I mean, a lot of times it's very collaborative, right? I've worked with some really good casting directors that have, like Waspinator was not necessarily my idea because we're going and reading for all the bad guys, and it's like everyone's we're all being villainous. And it was Doug Parker who was casting it. They went, well, do your little your bubble voice, because I had one I'd use, something like that. Hi, I mean, and they went, yeah, but this guy's a bad guy, right? Well, yeah, but do it and make him a bad guy. It's like, okay, well, he sits in there. Ring around the piece of it. He's a horse, so give him a little buzz. So stuff kind of evolves. It's a co-production. I work, for myself, I really like working off of a picture. I get a pretty clear idea, in my head of what I think the guy should sound like then, and then, hopefully it's sort of concurrent with what the producers think it should sound like, and if it all comes into work and there's kismet, then all of a sudden that's when you get the call that goes, hey, I'm working. Sometimes it just comes up on the fly. Am I answering the right question?
Yes.
No? Am I done?
Yes.
I'm done, thank you.
For me, it also starts with the model sheet, which we're generally given at the first audition, which is usually a full shot of the character and then the side shot and the back shot, so you get an idea of what you're dealing with physically, and that's where it starts for me. For Transformers, it was kind of interesting. I went to the first call, and then we actors have a thing called the callback, which means hi. Which means we whittled it down a little bit from 50,000 down to 49,000. So we'd like to have the rest of you come back. At the callback, I was at Wally Burr's studio, and he was running the auditions. And he came out. Yes.
That's my Wally Burr impression.
Do it again.
So Wally liked to do that really close to the microphone in the control room so your headphones would actually jump off of your skull.
Yeah, Wally would like to do that. Wally came out of the audition, or rather to the front room where we were waiting. In fact, I was by myself, and he said, well, must be nice to know you already have a part. And I said, excuse me? He said, oh yeah, they have a part for you already. They want you to play this character called Bumblebee. So I was cast actually before I had completed the audition process. The only thing that they had yet to figure out was they wanted me to also play Spike. Because obviously I have a higher pitched voice, so I did a lot of the younger, smaller characters. But then they figured out that Bumblebee has so much to do with Spike. I'd be constantly talking to myself, which I do in the automobile, to and from work, but wouldn't work in sessions. So they decided to use Corey as Spike, and the rest is history. But Model Sheet, I think, is where we sort of start at. Mr. McConnohie?
You dangled your preposition.
It's dangling, it's rectums with him, what's the deal?
And that's what this cloth in the front of the table is for, so nobody has to see.
Oh.
What?
Go ahead, Michael, jump in here.
I will. In my case, the characters, actually Wally had a pretty clear idea of what he wanted, and he gave me an idea. He said, for Cosmos, I kind of have a vision of Peter Lorre. Well, he's still around, you might give him a call. I said, no, you're pretty cheap. Yes. So, he said, but no, I don't want a good Peter Lorre, I want a bad Peter Lorre. I said, I can do that. And that's how Cosmos happened. But for Trax, it was, he said, want something a little prissy. We're not discussing sexual orientation here. All right, before we get it, he is not gay.
He's a machine!
It's a love machine.
So we came up with something called a Harvard Lockjaw, which most people think is based on Jim Backus. Jim Backus did do something like that in First and Howell III. But the prototype for me and Trax was an actor named Steve Franca on the Dobie Gillis show. He played Chatsworth Osborne Jr. And if you're not watching Nickelodeon, you're not going to have a clue. But that's what Wally wanted, and I looked at the character sheets and all that. I don't, when I was working, I wasn't playing the metal mass, as some people were. I'm mentioning no names, but people who aren't here, but who've got really deep, gravelly voices. I always, in my head, had an image that is very humanoid, and that's the way I played it, coming more from a human center. The soft, creamy, or is that the screaming center? Next question. Yes.
All right, it's really cool seeing all of you guys here. Personally, I don't see what's so bad about Trax being gay. I think that's great. But and this.
Well, he's also not straight.
Yeah, I guess. There was that like carjack guy Raoul or something like that. But anyway, this for Scott. And I just want to congratulate you again on quitting smoking because I know how difficult that is.
Thank you. Sometimes entire seconds go by where I'm not obsessing about that.
Yeah, and my question is, you did Merman on Masters of the Universe, right? And he sounded just like a really sad waspinator.
I know.
So I just
It wasn't my fault.
Well, I wanted to challenge you. Can you do Waspinator and Merman griping about their jobs?
Who's going to know who's which?
That's the challenge.
Oh, well, at least you get to stay dry.
Now, stop the battle. Which one was that?
Well, what's made you sick of hearing you griping all the time, drinking soda to his own cigar chamber? You don't get blown to smithereens. Oh, yes, but at least you get to maintain one personality. But one go,
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Calling in fairness, because that's what the producers were there in the first session, and they went, oh yeah, we also want you to do this, and I'm like, okay, cool. And there's this guy in town named Ted Cole, you've heard of him if you've heard any of the stuff around. And he does this thing where he sounds like his head is in a 5-gallon water bucket. It's the most astonishing sound I've ever heard. And I was shooting myself in my own foot, but I was going, even to the auditions, I went, you gotta have Ted play this character. And then they ended up having me do it, so I was playing around, and then they went, oh, we like that sound. And I was like, I'm going, please, somebody's gonna notice. Not least of all me, but thank you for bringing up that incredibly painful memory.
Yeah, you. Go ahead.
This question for all three of you.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about you personally, as well as your characters. What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of music do you think your characters would listen to? Just,
Say you're a tree, okay? What kind of tree?
Would you be alone?
Who wants to begin?
Let's start with that.
Yeah, let's start with Michael.
I'm into wallpaper, new age music. It's mellow. I listen to a lot of classical stuff. I've given up on the acid rock because the flashbacks are just too intense. Tracks, he likes his strings. Cosmos doesn't listen to music at all. No sense of rhythm.
Understandable. I have a very eclectic music taste. I enjoy all kinds of music. I love the old standards, the Sinatra stuff, and the stuff from the 40s and 50s. And to me, Bumblebee being a Volkswagen, polka music was probably...
Eclectia seems to be sort of the genre of the day.
Yes.
Because I'm the same way. I mean, you know, I've seen AC/DC in concert 4 times now, including the first time in 1977. I also worked for the Vancouver Opera for 4 years. I listen to a lot of anything.
You know, even both kinds of the good stuff, country and western.
I like country western.
Thus the hat, which is actually just covering up the fact that there is no top to my skull. You know what? I can't even answer that thing about the characters. I just don't know.
Well, you don't have enough time.
Well, no, we do. This is what they would have. Now, if you've got recorders and you play that back and you slow it down really slow, it's a complete and comprehensive list of all of the various.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, for all of you, how much time do you have to really settle on the voice of a character? Like after they show you the materials, if you can't bring them to life in X minutes, are you fired or something?
There's a button.
Yeah. Opens a trap door.
And a trap door.
Right down to the bottom. You got to be pretty fast with this stuff, and that's most of us. I don't know about. I'm sure you guys have some improv training in your background. Most of us are pretty quick on our feet. Oh. She was bored with you, Scott, so she's
I know her pain. I feel the same way.
So most of us are pretty fast on our feet. In fact, you have to be in this business because in the middle of a session they may throw you a character to do, so you've got to pull something out really quick. You'll notice though, if you watch animated shows, say Dan Castellaneta as Homer Simpson has changed radically from the beginning episodes to now. So there's a real progression sometimes when you're playing a character. Usually with guys like us, we got to lock on pretty early, but you can even listen to some of the earlier Transformers and some of the later, and you'll see some differences in a lot of the characters as you begin to explore the different colors of the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of that comes from us and the natural change you get over time, and some because the writers, they see what you're doing and say, oh, yeah. And they start molding the character and the actor, and the characters start getting more and more congruent. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
It's a pretty big word for this time of day.
Sorry. Go right ahead.
Who else? Stand up, make yourself known.
Hey, this is for Scott. I think we can all agree that the voice acting in Armada and Energon has been less than great. We know what you can do because of Beast Wars. Is the voice directing causing this slump?
No, you know what? Terry, who's directing, is actually a terrific director, and he's a great actor himself. The difference is, I mean, the big difference between the two, I always think of as Armada and Energon are the same show as far as I'm concerned. They are already animated. We're going to the studio and dubbing them. So basically, what you see is what we get. Basically, we're just trying to, you're acting with somebody else's lips. There's no room for any real character development. There's no room to make
Jetfire doesn't have lips.
This is one of the benefits from my point of view. If you're doing looping and dubbing, always try to find a character that's either wearing a mask, has no face, or has no lips. But I mean, we're kind of stuck within the parameters of what already existed, and you're going in one at a time, and just, I never know what's going on in the scenes. Whereas Beast Wars, we recorded sort of in a North American style, the whole cast was in there, we were improvising, we were doing stuff, we were, coming together, and the writing on Beast Wars was so exceptional. When Larry involved... It's the only show I've ever worked on, and I've done like almost 5,000 episodes of various cartoons over the years, you know, since the 80s, and most of which are very forgettable. But Beast Force is the only show I ever worked on where I really became quite a fan of the show. Because the writing on it was exemplary, the animation was so cool and so different, and they had added so much to the characters. You know, I'd just be like, oh, Thursday night, man, I gotta go home and watch my show. You know, and it was a real treat to work on, and it was, I think most of it was the writing. Whereas, you know, with the other shows, they're basically just trying to write dialogue that'll fit the lips and make the story move along and sell some toys. And...
Yeah, let me jump in on this.
Jump in, please.
Because I write script adaptations for dub things, and I do direction. I'm dubbing a series now for Geneon called Sidebuster. There is no greater challenge for a voice actor than dubbing something from another language when the original performance had no relationship to what the lips were doing. And you know that if you've seen some Japanese anime. That stuff is animated even before they get into it. They get into a room, 6 to 8 actors stand in a circle, step in and do their line, step in and do their line. And the director says, oh, that's very good, go next. And of course you've got the 6 standard Japanese voices. 3 of which sound the same. So when the market opens up here for a series like that, the first challenge is to do it within budget. Because it's acquired animation, the budget is minuscule. So, you know, it's a cartoon, you know, do a script and we'll make it fit. What? So then the director's sweating bullets, the actors are saying, I can't act, man, I can't do it anymore. And there's a lot of sturm and drang and sweat and blood on the floor, and at the end you get something which is not part of the creative process. And I will tell you this, I have been told by a dubbing producer that actors and writers are not part of the creative process for acquired animation. That'll tell you where they're coming from. So the fact that he can make that thing play at all is a tribute.
It's a rare thing. It's fun when you get this paragraph and something, because I like Dragon Ball Z and I work on a whole bunch of other stuff, and you got this, it's like, okay, I got this great read, it's like this paragraph dog, it's gonna be really funny, and then it's like, you're watching the screen, beep, 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 and the mouth goes, shut.
We're going to need to do a little rewrite here.
I have a couple questions for all of you. One, Scott touched on this somewhat. To what extent do you become fans, or at least how much do you watch the shows that you've worked on, just in general and Transformers in particular? And also, when you watch those, on Transformers, they tend to do a lot of, post-recording flanging and other alterations of the voice. And how much does that affect your perceptions of how your own work comes out? And that would be especially true for the G1 characters, where all the voices were heavily flanged at some point in the production process.
Let me step in here if I may, please. I actually watched towards the beginning of the show, after a while, just to check and see what was happening with the animation as far as the voice. I think most of us at least watched the beginning of it. After a while, Transformers was really a kid show. Most of you remember it from your youth, and that's what it's about. So I was like, 30 when we were doing it. So unlike Scott, I didn't race home to watch Transformers. I was watching adult shows at that time. Partridge Family.
Adult themes going on in your show.
I understand. That's right.
Not just for kids.
We'll get to you in just a moment. So I watched some of the first episodes, and as far as the flanging goes, something I noticed. In fact, I just got the first season, that wonderful compilation that Rhino did, that we received no remuneration for.
Well, that's because it's now owned by a German
company. Michael will get into that later, because he was very upset about it.
Definitely.
But the Decepticons were more heavily processed than the Autobots, if you notice, because the Autobots, I think, you needed to relate more to them. So it never bothered me that much. In fact, it added a kind of a nice dimension, I thought.
The fifth dimension.
Oh, sorry. No, I watched the first few, as Dan said, but after that, Basically, the life of an actor is a harried one. I didn't have time to look at what I had done. I had to go find something else to do. And that's the short answer.
Good point.
If we're not working, we're looking for work. That's why I look this way at the age of 23.
That means you were 3 when you were doing the show.
Absolutely.
Wow.
He was gifted, very gifted.
Shy. But you were very short. Let's hear from the older generations.
Yes.
Or the newer generations, I guess. Represented here by Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the question again. I've got no attention span. It's like,
Did you watch Processing Flanging?
You've already established that.
Do you like the flanging? Huh? Do you like the flange?
Yeah.
We did not have flanging in our generation, I'm afraid. It is old technology, I fear.
Actually, I was surprised. I just found out that Strong Arm on Energon is pitched. Because I originally had this, sort of thing, and then Terry went, "You listen to this. This is really weird." And they played something. I was like, "Bird? What the heck?" Very similar answer to what you guys say. I mean, generally, if a new series will come out, I kind of check out the first, I might tape or check out the first episode or two just to kind of see what it looks like, and then. I'm all scrambling and begging and sweating and trying to get the next job. And scene.
Next question.
Okay, this question's for Scott. You've kind of shown your versatility in doing different voices, and a couple of us were kind of wondering, can you beatbox?
Can I beatbox?
Yeah.
I'm one of the most Caucasian people you'll ever meet. Promos for Warner Brothers when I was doing X-Men, and they had, for some reason, this guy came up with this concept that we would have a series of Wolverine rapping.
It was not a pretty picture, I can tell you that.
Next question.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Okay, quick question. Just gotta know. Bumblebee versus Wheeling. Who'd win in a fight?
Bumblebee.
I gotta go with Bumblebee. I mean,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Bumblebee has a gun. Wheeling has a slingshot.
Yeah.
Put out an eye.
My money's on the little guy with all the heart.
Hey, he
Amen.
may be yellow, but he's no coward.
Amen.
Thanks.
I was going to wear a Hawaiian shirt today.
Apparently you didn't get the memo, did you?
I'm out of the loop.
All right. Hi.
A couple questions, but real quick I want to know, if you were approached to work on the new movie, would you be willing to do voiceover work?
Absolutely not. I hate this. At the very beginning.
Prostitute myself like that.
We're way beyond that now.
Are you kidding? For like, a scale payment, residuals of what's going to be an incredibly multi-million-dollar raking in kind of
Not to mention being true to the characters that we began with. All of us, and I've spoken to Peter, and I just saw John Stevenson the other day, and Michael Bell I see frequently. Believe me, all of us, from the first generation at least, would be thrilled to do the film. And not strictly... Although that's a nice part of it, but it's nice that there would be a continuity in the characters rather than having Danny DeVito playing Optimus Prime.
Keanu Reeves is very popular.
Yeah,
the Vin Diesel film.
You know Hollywood, and the bottom line is, as I've said this before, I've had this question before, is money in Hollywood. And if the producers feel they can make more money hiring celebrity voices and hyping the celebrities, then that's what they'll do. If they feel like the fan base, you guys have a lot of power, and there are, I understand, websites and stuff where you can log in and vote what you'd like to hear. And they may listen to what you have to say.
No one's asking us for a lot of questions about directors and stuff, so they are asking for input right now.
Yeah.
They did that with the first movie, didn't they? I mean, they
Well, most of us, yeah. I had one small, I don't know about you, Michael, I had one small scene at the beginning, and then was out of there, and it was Robert Stack and
Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah,
and Orson Welles is the world.
Yeah. Orson Welles is the planet. It was his final performance, by the way, which is just kind of, I don't know, you just gotta kind of go, wow. Citizen Kane to, you know, what was it, Unicron. Yeah, kind of a bookended career there. So I'm kind of straight from the subject. Did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I was going to second what Dan said. It would be great to have a job. It would be even better not, I'm going to use that word, not to prostitute what has become the Transformers universe. And as far as letting them know, yeah, you can go to websites and vote. I'll tell you what will really do it. Write letters. Words on paper. Send it to DreamWorks. Believe me, there's going to be addresses available. Use them. Because you are the power base for that universe. And if that's what you want, let them know.
Or show up on Spielberg's front door. We organize a sit-in. We bring tents. We bring hibachis.
I just had a couple of things I want to ask you. If you could tell us your worst voice acting experience, and also I was wondering if people recognize you by your voice when you're out just shopping at the store, especially Dan. I mean, you sound like Bumblebee.
Yeah, unlike Scott, I have very little versatility.
There's all a sense of identity, whereas I have no idea who I am.
I'm pretty well grounded. He has no clue. Yeah, I do frequently get well, from Spider-Man also, and I also. Radio and TV voiceovers, so it's kind of out there a lot. But I get a lot of, do you know who you sound like? Let's all say it together. Alan Alda. I don't hear it, but that's what everyone tells me. So. Scott, it'd be impossible.
Closing my eyes and just.
Now, Scott, you're not going to have that problem because your characters are so wildly different.
Yeah, there have been very few times in my life where I've ever been hired to use my own voice, largely because I think there are a couple of guys that do my voice better than me. Because I really have no knowledge of what that is. No, I've never been, like on the street. I've done some, I've done film and television stuff too, so occasionally you get somebody going, you're the... It's fun to use your voice and play around. I've been stuck in like a lineup at the supermarket and just get out of my way. 4 hours over, just going.
I'm so sorry. Oh dear. Oh, he's just, it's.
What was the first part of the question?
I don't remember.
The worst acting. Oh, the worst. Oh, word. You know what? I mean. God bless Wally, you know what he's like.
Yeah, that would have to be my worst.
We did, I did a show years ago called Conan the Adventurer.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. And Bucky were in the Toad Wars. There was a few that Wally directed up and some of the G.I. Joe. But Wally is a striver for perfection.
Yeah, that you could put it that way.
Yes. Nobody cares more than Wally. I passed out in the studio twice with him. Where we did some stuff where there's these weird skeletal warriors we did, and they were all very wispy. And we did this thing where he just, he was like doing the Leopold thing from the Warner Brothers cartoon, going, keep it going, keep it going. And just, the world suddenly got very small, and boing. Wally was the only guy I've ever seen to reduce grown actors to tears.
And Scott is not exaggerating.
No.
I mean, it was unbelievable to see, and not to take anything from Wally because he produced some great stuff.
Man.
Yeah, I mean he got some great stuff. But I believe that Wally Burr was personally responsible for the 1987 actors' strike in Los Angeles, where among other things the animation actors were asking for a 4-hour day because Wally was taking 8 hours, 8 full hours to do a 22-minute episode. That's after the intro and outro and the commercials are accounted for. That's a long time. Guys like